Incredible 7-day journey, how a black employee's touching act transformed a millionaire's daughter's life forever. In the heart of a vibrant southern city, where the sun cast golden rays over bustling streets, Richard worked at his family's auto repair shop. Each day started with the hum of engines and the scent of oil in the air. At 26, Richard carried not just tools but the weight of his family's hopes. His single mother and younger sister depended on him. With grease under his nails and a determined glint in his eye, he would stay late, poring over their lives and dreams, unheard stories hidden in the rusted hoods of the cars he fixed. One rainy afternoon, a sleek vintage classic car appeared outside his shop. It sputtered and coughed, displaying its struggles to keep going. Richard stepped outside, his heart quickening as he caught sight of Charlotte, the daughter of a wealthy car dealership owner. Her sophisticated attire contrasted sharply with the grime of the city, and her worried expression tugged at his heartstrings. As she explained the mysterious breakdown, Richard offered his help without even thinking of payment. Even though he was drowning in his own responsibilities, compassion surged through him like the engines he fixed. As Richard worked, they shared stories that bridged the distance between their worlds. Charlotte confided how her father's towering expectations loomed over her, stifling her dreams of becoming an artist. For a brief moment, they were two souls against a world that expected them to conform. Richard saw the pain behind her polished exterior, the weight of her lineage pressing down on her shoulders, heavy yet invisible to those who only saw the glints of gold. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed, and their friendship blossomed, each encounter more charged with connection than the last. They laughed, talked dreams, and shared setbacks, promising to support each other through every tough corner life threw their way. Richard felt a warmth in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years, a sense of belonging that warmed the very air around them. However, as Charlotte's friends caught wind of her new friendship with Richard, their whispers became daggers, slicing through the tender ties they had woven. Their scornful laughter echoed, wrapping around Richard and pushing him beneath the weight of prejudice and doubt. In one tense confrontation, Richard felt the ground shake beneath him. The air grew still, and he fought the tightness in his chest as he faced the reality of their class divide. It felt like a chasm, threatening to swallow everything he had come to cherish. Could he prove himself worthy in a world that labeled him less? In that moment, Richard clutched his dignity like a lifeline, determined not to let their judgments define him. Yet, the battered heart of the situation whispered uncertainty. Would love thrive among this tangled web of expectations and judgments? As the week closed in, the air thickened with unspoken words and unresolved emotions, leaving both Richard and Charlotte standing at a crossroads, questioning everything. Would their bond withstand the looming pressure, or would the chasms of class tear them apart forever? The morning sun rose on another day, casting long shadows across the streets, but it seemed less bright for Richard. He stepped into the shop, his heart heavy with the weight of yesterday's confrontation. The laughter of Charlotte's friends still echoed in his mind, like hammers beating on metal, relentless and piercing. Each twist of his wrench brought back memories of their shared moments, but also filled him with doubt. As Richard dove into work on a different car, he couldn't shake the feeling that the world was pushing him away from Charlotte. He'd seen the way her smile faded when her friends were around. It hurt like a bruise, deep and tender. He knew he had to meet her again, to talk it out. To explain that their friendship meant everything to him, despite the whispers that clung to them like grime on the tires he fixed. Richard finally decided it was time for a bold move. He finished his tasks early, wiping grease from his hands and glancing at the clock nervously. Today, he would take a chance. He drove across town, the engine of his clunky old pickup sputtering to life as he grasped the steering wheel, his heart racing with every turn. Driving through the affluent neighborhoods where manicured lawns and grand houses stood felt surreal. They were gorgeous but felt like a different world entirely, when he reached Charlotte's house, Richard's breath hitched in his throat. It loomed before him, vast and imposing, a stark reminder of the divide between them. Nervously, he knocked at the door, heart pounding like a drum. A moment later, Charlotte opened up, her surprise melting into relief. "Richard. What are you doing here?" she asked, her eyes lighting up before faltering, as if remembering the disapproval of her world. "I needed to see you," Richard replied, shoving his hands into his pockets to stifle the anxious energy vibrating through him. "Can we talk?" They moved to the back porch, where the scent of blooming flowers hung thick in the air. Charlotte settled onto the swing, her fingers fidgeting with the chain. Richard felt every ounce of tension pull them apart like a wrestling match. He took a deep breath. I can't stop thinking about what they said," he confessed, his voice thick with emotion. "I care about you, Charlotte. Can't we just ignore what they think?" She paused, searching his face as if looking for answers in his eyes. "Richard, it's not that simple. My friends, my family, they expect me to be with someone like me. I don't know if I can fight against that." With her words hung in the air, Richard's heart sank deeper. He felt the certainty of rejection burning at his core, yet he pushed through the fear. "But what about how we feel? Can't we find a way to make this work?" Tears formed in her eyes, and in that moment, Richard understood her struggles mirrored his. Yes, their worlds clashed, but that very collision had forged something beautiful between them. They were both trapped, yearning to break free from the expectations that suffocated their dreams. Charlotte looked away, her voice barely a whisper. "What if people stop talking if I stand by you? What if I lose everything I know?" With his heart dancing between hope and despair, Richard reached out, gently lifting her chin. "Then we'll rebuild something new together. We can create our own dreams, away from their shadows." He meant it. They could spark something greater than themselves. But as doubt danced in Charlotte's gaze, Richard knew a storm lurked on the horizon, ready to unleash itself. Would they find the strength to defy their worlds and stand together? The answer loomed just out of reach, leaving them teetering on the edge of hope. Charlotte's gaze dropped to the worn wood of the porch, her mind racing through endless possibilities. The warmth of the sun felt like a fleeting memory, fading under the weight of their conversation. Richard sensed her conflict, the battle between desire and expectation, and it tugged at his heart. "Charlotte, can you just give me a chance?" He felt desperate now, words tumbling out like a wave crashing against the shore. "If we don't try, we might regret it. We can take it slow. I'm not asking for anything drastic, just a moment to explore what this could be." She bit her lip, torn. Richard could almost see the gears turning in her mind. There were moments when he noticed the fire in her eyes, the very essence that drew him in, yet now that fire flickered uncertainly. "Richard, it's not just about us," she replied, her voice trembling. "My parents, they have plans for me. I've been raised to fit a mold, and I can't just shatter it." A rush of frustration surged through him. "But what about you? What about your happiness?" Richard stepped closer, his heart pounding. "You don't have to be trapped. Think about how we laughed together, how we shared things no one else knows. That's real, Charlotte. That can be enough." "You make it sound so easy," she whispered, wiping a tear from her cheek. "What if I lose everything? I have to think of my family. My future." His heart ached for her. Richard wished he could sweep her away from all the pressures suffocating her spirit. "You're right. It's not easy, but what if this could be everything you've ever wanted? Aren't you tired of pretending to fit into their world?" The silence that followed felt heavy, wrapping around them like a thick fog. Charlotte stared out at the meticulously kept garden, where colors blended in harmony, yet felt all too manufactured. For a moment, Richard saw a glimpse of longing flash across her face, a desire for something real, something unshackled. "If I go against my family," her voice faltered, but there was a hint of defiance creeping through. "What if I'm left alone? What if they never accept me again?" He couldn't let her spiral into that fear. Then we'll figure it out together. We'll face whatever comes. Can't we give our dreams a fighting chance? Charlotte took a deep breath, standing up from the swing, the chains creaking as she moved. Richard held his breath, desperate for her to see things his way. They both stood at a precipice, looking over the edge of uncertainty. I don't know if I'm strong enough, she finally said, her voice shaking as she looked out over the garden. Charlotte, strength comes from taking risks. Not everything worth having is easy. You deserve to be happy. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, Richard felt a flicker of hope ignite in her. It was fragile but alive, a tiny flame against the darkness. Maybe we could try. Her voice cracked, nervous yet alive with possibility. Just then, a soft yet jarring sound interrupted their moment. The sharp ring of Charlotte's phone echoed from inside the house. It seemed like fate had a way of sneaking up just when things were beginning to align. Ugh, it's probably my mother, Charlotte groaned, her expression tightening again. I have to answer. Richard nodded slowly, feeling the warmth of their moment start to seep away. He stepped back, giving her space as she turned to head inside. But before she disappeared through the doorway, she paused, glancing back at him. Can you stay? Just until I'm done. The hopeful glimmer in her eyes contrasted sharply with her earlier uncertainty. Of course, Richard replied, his heart racing anew. As she disappeared from view, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever news awaited her could change everything between them. What if the phone call shattered their moment of clarity? Or what if it gave her the strength to choose a different path? The air thickened with anticipation, leaving Richard alone with his thoughts and fears. Charlotte stepped inside, closing the door softly behind her. The warmth of the porch faded, replaced by the coolness of the house that felt confining. Richard remained outside, pacing slightly, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on his chest. He could still see the flicker of hope in her eyes, but now it was shrouded in the uncertainty that enveloped her. As she approached her phone, it felt to her like stepping into a different world. The vibrant colors of the garden faded into the muted tones of her life. She stared at the screen, fighting the urge to let the call go to voicemail. With a shaky breath, she pressed the button and put the phone to her ear. Hi, Mom, she said, trying to keep her voice steady, though it trembled like a leaf in the wind. Charlotte, dear. How are you? Her mother's voice, filled with warmth and expectation, washed over her. It reminded her of the interconnected lives they had built around her. But right now, that warmth felt like a suffocating blanket. I'm okay. Just, sitting on the porch. Great. I wanted to talk to you about the gala next week. Your father and I were thinking it would be the perfect opportunity for you to meet Mr. Jensen, her mother continued, oblivious to the turmoil Charlotte was battling with. Charlotte flinched at the mention of the gala. The idea of being paraded like a trophy made her stomach churn. Mom, about that. She hesitated, the words stuck in her throat. She thought of Richard and the spark they shared, the laughter that replaced the mundane tasks her family set for her. Oh, honey, I know you're apprehensive. But Mr. Jensen comes from a great family. It could lead to wonderful things for you. Wonderful things. The phrase echoed in her mind, tainted with irony. She thought about the warmth of laughter versus the cold expectations of a future that felt like it was slipping through her fingers. From the porch, Richard could hear her voice lower, almost pleading. He strained to catch every word, hoping she'd define her voice and push back against the tide of expectation. Mom, I don't think I want to be set up, not like this. I need to. A rush of emotion surged up, and she swallowed hard. I need to live my own life. Silence fell on the line. Richard could feel his heart racing as he allowed himself to hope she'd break free. Sweetheart, you don't understand how important this is. You can't just disregard our plans for you. Taking a deep breath, Charlotte felt her resolve strengthen. This was the moment, a pivotal point between obligation and desire. But what if I want something different? What if I want to choose my own path? Is that so wrong? Richard stood still, his heart pounding as he held on to every word she spoke. He'd known she had a fire inside her, and he finally saw it beginning to blaze. Charlotte, her mother's voice returned, more cautious now. You have responsibilities to think about. Responsibilities? Charlotte shot back, her voice growing louder. What about my happiness? What about what I want? Richard took a step closer to the door, his heart racing. He couldn't hear her mother's reply, but he sensed the struggle. He imagined Charlotte on the brink of breaking free, standing there against everything her family had built around her. The call ended, and the door creaked open. Charlotte stepped outside, her face pale but set with determination. Richard, she whispered, her voice fierce yet trembling. I need you to know I can't go on like this. I don't know what's coming next, but I want to fight for what we have. I want to try. A wave of relief washed over him, but it was soon mixed with fear. They stood at the edge of a precipice together, uncertain of what lay ahead. Are you ready to take that leap? He asked, sensing the shadow of doubt lurking in the back of her mind. Charlotte met his eyes, her fire igniting once more. I think so. But what if I lose everything? Before Richard could answer, his phone buzzed in his pocket, startling them both. Somehow, he knew it was more than just a message. The questioning look in his eyes mirrored the fear in hers. What if this moment of truth changed everything for them? As he pulled out his phone and glanced at the screen, Richard's heart sank. He turned pale, dread creeping over him. What awaited them beyond this breakthrough? He needed to find the courage to answer, but fear clawed at his throat. Rich? Charlotte asked, her expression shifting, sensing the tension. Before he could respond, the phone buzzed again, and he braced himself for the shattering news that could change everything. Richard stared at the phone, stunned. The screen flashed a name he never expected, his father. A chill danced down his spine. A reminder of old wounds, of expectations, and past disappointments. How was he supposed to answer Charlotte now, when his own heart was in turmoil? Charlotte's brow furrowed as she saw the conflict etched on his face. What is it? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. The anticipation hung heavily between them, a thread stretched tight. With shaking hands, he swiped to answer. Dad? The word barely escaped his lips, cracking under the weight it carried. It's me. Richard. His father's tone was curt, the kind that wrapped around him like a noose. We need to talk. Now. What's wrong? Panic coursed through him. You need to come home. There's been an incident. Before his father could finish, anxiety surged in Richard. He could feel Charlotte's gaze piercing through him, each second stretching further into uncertainty. Would he turn away from her now, after everything they had just dared to embrace? He clenched his jaw, knowing life had a way of pulling him back into a world he'd fought hard to escape. Can it wait? I need some time. No, it can't wait. It's important. Richard hesitated. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, drowning out his father's voice. Okay, I'll come. But I can't leave right now. Make a choice, Richard. Don't make me come get you. The line went dead. A weight sat heavy on his shoulders as he processed the implications. Charlotte stepped closer, her eyes filled with concern. Rich, what did he say? He felt trapped between his father's demands and the momentum building between him and Charlotte. Her presence was intoxicating, and he hated that the call had pulled him away. It's complicated. Aren't they always? Her lips twitched with a hint of defiance, but it quickly faded. What do you want to do? With each passing second, the air thickened with unspoken fears. Richard looked toward the horizon, where the setting sun cast an orange glow over the landscape. A beautiful sight, yet tinged with doubt. I don't know. Do I go back to a world that nearly broke me, or stay here and fight for us? For you. She reached out to touch his arm, grounding him in the moment. You deserve to choose your path, just like I need to choose mine. But I can't make that decision for you. He felt the warmth of her hand seep into him, igniting that fire he knew existed within. But the darkness of his family's expectations loomed, reminding him that nothing could ever be easy. Do you really want to fight with me? Because if I go back, everything changes, he said, searching her eyes for answers. Charlotte inhaled sharply as she looked away briefly, a flicker of uncertainty flashing across her face. In that moment, the fate of both their lives felt like it was teetering on the edge. You tell me why it's worth it, she said, her voice trembling. Suddenly, there it was, clarity wrapped in her challenge. He needed to dig deep not for himself, but for them. Because you give me hope, Charlotte. Her eyes widened, and in that space of vulnerability, Richard felt the weight lift just a little. Could they really fight against everything together? I don't want to lose you, but I also don't want to walk away without understanding what you want, he admitted, locking eyes with her. But before she could respond, his phone buzzed again. Another message. Another wave of uncertainty surged through him. What now? She asked, the tension curling back around them. Richard opened the message, and his heart sank once more. It was a picture of their family home, smoke rising into the sky. Charlotte, I think I have no choice. I have to go. The finality of his words hung in the air like an impending storm. Would he dive back into a world of expectations and risks, or fight for a love that had only just taken flight? Her breath caught in her throat. But what if? What ifs were all I had left to give, he interrupted softly. Together, they stood on the precipice of a decision, each heartbeat louder than the last. Would he return to the past or take a step into a courageous future? As he looked into her eyes, a single thought struck him: when would he choose the path that honored his heart? Richard felt the heat of the moment weighing heavily. The sun dipped lower, its glow offering little comfort as it painted their faces in soft amber hues. He needed to leave. But the thought of stepping back into a life filled with chaos and expectations made his stomach churn. Charlotte, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, if I go home, everything changes. I might not be able to come back. She stepped closer, closing the gap between them. What if I come with you? The words hung in the air, fragile yet profound. No. The sharpness of his response stunned them both. You shouldn't have to bear this weight. This is my family's mess, not yours. Her expression fell, and he could see the hurt flash across her face. You think I can't handle it? It's not that. It's just I don't want to drag you into my past. You deserve better than that. I've been dragged into plenty of messes before, Richard, she replied, her tone steadying. But this us is new. I want to be by your side. The sincerity in her voice felt like a balm to his frayed nerves. Could he really let her in this deep? The thought terrified him. He opened his mouth to refute her offer but stopped, scanning her face for signs of fear. Instead, he found unwavering determination. Charlotte, you don't have to do this, he implored, pressing the palm of his hand against his forehead. I can do it alone. I've always done it alone. Are you sure that's what you want? Because I don't want you to walk away from me, she pushed back, her voice shaking slightly. If you go, I'll be here, waiting. But every minute apart feels like something is being ripped from me. We can fight together instead of alone. His heart felt like it would burst. Charlotte's bravery made something shift inside him. The longing he had felt in their shared moments surged back, igniting an inner light that he took a deep breath, eyes shimmering with tears. You make it sound easy, but all of this, it's a part of me I wanted to leave behind. I know it is, she replied softly, her fingertips brushing against his. But running one fix anything. You taught me that. Choices rarely come easy, but we owe it to ourselves to face the demons together. Richard clenched his jaw, weighing his options. The flames flickered in the distance beyond the fields. Just hours ago, he had envisioned carving out a new future with Charlotte far from the suffocating expectations of his past. But now, those flames were a siren call that beckoned him back to a place of duty, loyalty, and fear. He swallowed hard, caught between two worlds. "I'm terrified of what lies ahead," he admitted, voice trembling. "Then let us be scared together," she said, her eyes bright with resolve. "I'm not going to let you face your family alone. Not now." The knot in his stomach loosened ever so slightly. Suddenly, he felt lighter. Maybe her presence could be a shield against the fears that haunted him. Together, they could face whatever storm awaited him at home. With a sudden surge of determination, Richard nodded. "All right. Let us go together." The words felt powerful as they left his lips, freeing him from the grip of isolation. "Really?" Charlotte's face lit up, surprise blooming in her features. "Yes. I'm ready to fight for us," he affirmed, knowing it would be a battle not just with his family, but within himself. They stood on the brink of a new beginning, hope twinkling like stars in the darkening sky. Just as they turned to leave, Richard's phone buzzed again, slicing through the moment like a knife. It was another message from his father. "Where are you? There's so much to discuss." As anxiety gripped him once more, he squeezed Charlotte's hand tightly. "What did I just step into?" With a shared glance, both their hearts raced. What awaited them on the other side of this journey? Richard felt the rush of fear and adrenaline. The weight of his father's words hung in the air, threatening to pull him back into the familiar whirlwind of obligations and judgments. He glanced at Charlotte, whose determination steadied him, but doubt still crept in like a shadow. "Let us go," he said finally, squeezing her hand once more, comforting himself as much as her. He turned on his heel, leading the way down the path that would take them away from the amber sunset and back toward the chaos he was trying to escape. The drive home felt endless. As Richard maneuvered the car through familiar streets, he could feel Charlotte's presence beside him, a beacon of hope amidst the familiar dread. He stole glances at her, marveling at how someone so strong could be standing with him. Yet, when he thought of the impending confrontation with his family, the knot in his stomach tightened again. "What is going through your mind?" Charlotte finally asked, breaking the silence. Her voice had a warmth that made him feel like he wasn't alone in this fight. "What if they don't understand?" he admitted, the words tumbling out before he could hold them back. "What if I've made a mistake?" Charlotte leaned closer, and Richard caught the smell of her shampoo, a scent that filled him with both calm and longing. "You don't have to face them alone. You're not just a part of their world anymore, you have me. They might not see the same things we do, but we can show them," she said, her confidence infusing him with a bit of courage. "Yeah, but what if they don't want to change?" he countered, fighting back a wave of despair. "What if they want to keep me chained to their expectations?" He could see Charlotte's brow furrow in concentration. "You can't control their reactions, but you can control how you respond to them. Just be honest. If they care about you, they'll listen. And if they don't, that's their loss, right?" He let her words settle in the silence of the car. Maybe she was right. Maybe the truth held a power he had never fully embraced. He wanted to fight for their love, to stand firm against the tide of his family's legacy. But what if standing up meant shattering the fragile bond he had with his parents? The thought made his heart ache. As they drove closer to home, the chaos of his family loomed ever larger. The stark changes that awaited him grew more tangible with every mile. The mansion appeared on the horizon, its imposing structure a stark reminder of the weight of legacy. Richard parked the car, the engine's hum dwindling into silence that he looked over at Charlotte, who was studying him intently. "Are you ready?" She laced her fingers through his, grounding him against his fears. A wave of uncertainty washed over him, but beneath it, a flicker of defiance ignited. "I think so," he replied, though he wasn't fully convinced. What if their fight for love wasn't enough to withstand the storm? With that, they stepped out of the car, hearts pounding and minds racing. The grand entrance of the home stood before them, an ornate portal filled with echoes of past confrontations and expectations. Just as he reached for the door, it swung open, revealing his father's looming figure. "Where have you been?" His father's voice boomed, an authority that commanded immediate attention. Charlotte's grip tightened on Richard's hand. "Let us talk," Richard managed to say, feeling the weight of his decision crash over him like a wave, but before he could take a step inside, his father's sharp gaze shifted to Charlotte, scanning her as if she were an intruder. Why did it feel like they were stepping into a battlefield? Richard could feel all the unspoken words hanging in the air, thick like smoke. "Who is she?" His father demanded. The moment of truth was upon them, and Richard realized this was just the beginning. Would he be able to stand tall against everything they had built? Or would the tide of the past pull them apart for good? Richard's pulse quickened at his father's accusatory tone, a blend of anger and confusion painting his father's face. Charlotte stepped slightly in front of him, her own resolve shining through the uncertainty in her eyes. This wasn't just about him anymore, they were in this together. "I'm Charlotte," she said, her voice steady. "I'm Richard's girlfriend." She held his gaze, filling him with strength. His father's brow furrowed, skepticism written all over his features. "Girlfriend? You mean you're just a distraction? He doesn't have time for this nonsense." Richard felt a rush of heat as his father's dismissal rang in his ears. "Dad, this is exactly what I wanted to talk to you about." "Talk, Richard?" His father's voice dripped with sarcasm. "You think a few words can change years of expectations and hard work?" "Dad, it's not just words. It's about my life, and I want to make decisions for myself." The words came out louder than he intended, echoing in the vast hallway. For a moment, everything hung in balance. Richard felt like the whole world had paused around him. He could sense Charlotte's presence, reminding him why he was fighting for this. His father scoffed, crossing his arms tightly. "And you think this girl is worth throwing everything away? This family built an empire. Do you want to jeopardize your future over a fleeting romance?" Richard's chest tightened. It wasn't about that at all. "She's not a fleeting romance," he said, firming his stance. "Charlotte is someone I see my future with. I wish you could understand that." A silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Richard could feel the weight of history pushing down on him, the expectations, the pressures, the legacy. But in the corner of his mind, there was hope. Charlotte spoke, her voice unwavering. "I know this is hard for you, sir. But love isn't a distraction. It's the foundation of a happy life." Richard's father considered her words, his expression softening slightly, though the skepticism remained. "And what makes you think you'll survive in this family? It's not easy. It never has been." Richard's heart raced as he entered another territory: vulnerability. "I want to find a balance. I don't want to abandon who I am for you or anyone else." A flicker of something crossed his father's face. Was it regret, confusion, or a flash of understanding? It was impossible to tell. "Balance?" His father scoffed again, a hint of annoyance creeping back. "You think you know the meaning of that word? You need to decide what you value more, this girl or everything we've built." Richard felt a knife twist in his gut. The question hung there, heavy. Beyond those walls, he saw a life full of possibilities, yet it felt miles away. Charlotte squeezed his hand tighter, grounding him. "What matters is what makes you whole, not what others expect. You deserve that." "We deserve that," she replied quietly, and the sincerity in her voice made Richard's resolve stir anew. "Maybe it's time to redefine what that empire means to you, Dad," Richard said, surprising himself with his boldness. His father's eyes narrowed, a storm brewing behind them. Did Richard really mean that? The atmosphere was thick with tension as Richard prepared for whatever would come next. In the quiet, heavy air, a thought struck him. What if this was just the first step? What if revealing his truth could spark a change? But before he could continue, his mother appeared at the edge of the hallway, eyes wide and concerned. What is going on here? Richard's chest tightened anew. Did she have any idea what they were about to step into? As their eyes locked, he realized that nothing would ever be the same after tonight. Would love be strong enough to shift the tide, or would their world crack under the weight of secrets and expectations? Charlotte's heart raced as she felt the weight of Richard's mother's gaze. The tension between the three of them hung in the air like a thunderstorm waiting to break. Is everything all right? His mother asked, each word measured. Her voice was calm, but there was a worried lilt underneath. Richard opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He felt like he had stepped into a minefield. What would he say? How much did he reveal in this moment? Charlotte took a breath beside him, filling the silence with a silent promise of support. Mom, it's not exactly fine, Richard finally managed. The truth felt sloppy and raw as it escaped his lips. I'm trying to talk to Dad about my future. About what I want. His mother's brow knitted together. And what is it that you want, Richard? What is going on with you and Charlotte? Beside him, Charlotte felt a tremor of unease. She knew this was delicate territory. Richard's father had already made his opinions clear. Now, it seemed all eyes were on them, ready to dissect their every word. I want to be with her, Richard said, firming his resolve, and I want my life to mean something beyond just the family legacy. I need you to see that. His mother's expression shifted, and for a moment, Charlotte thought she saw understanding flicker there. Honey, do you honestly believe that what you're proposing is realistic? This family is built on sacrifices. Richard interrupted, his voice rising. But maybe it's time to build something new. Something that I choose for myself. An uncomfortable silence enveloped the hallway. The painting of Richard's great-grandfather, framed with pride, seemed to loom larger as if it were a reminder of the expectations pressing down on everyone in the room. Though Richard's resolve surged, doubt crept into his mind. Charlotte squeezed his hand again, and he could draw strength from her unwavering gaze. This isn't just about Richard and me, she added boldly. It's about a future where love and family don't clash but coexist. We can redefine what success means. A flicker of something softer passed over Richard's mother's features. He couldn't help but cling to that shred of hope. I just don't want to lose you, honey. I've seen the kind of pressure your father puts on you. He's harsh, but he loves you in his own way. Richard's heart ached at her words. Did love have to come with such demands? Mom, I'm not letting other people dictate my happiness anymore. His father shifted, break in demeanor. Richard, if you choose this path, it won't be easy. The consequences. They're mine to face, Richard interjected fiercely. Love isn't merely an option. It's my choice. Richard's mother sighed, looking between her husband and son, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I want you to be happy. But I'm scared that you didn't think this through. Each heartbeat was loud in Richard's chest, pounding. He was fighting for so much more than just his relationship, he was fighting to open a door to a life that felt more authentic. Mom, I know you love me and want what's best for me, Richard said, softening his tone. But if I keep following this blueprint of expectations, I'll lose myself completely. This is about living, not just existing. Silence hung like a fragile thread, and Richard felt his father's eyes on him. Would he see the truth beneath the rebellion? Or would his heart remain closed? Finally, his father let out a low huff of air, spreading his hands in a gesture of surrender. Perhaps there's a different conversation we need to have. One that doesn't involve threats. Charlotte's breath caught in her throat. Was this the turning point they needed? Richard glanced at her, his heart still racing. Could they truly begin to carve out their own story, rewriting the rules of the legacy he had known? But before he could bask in the possibility, the intercom crackled to life, startling everyone in the hallway. Attention everyone. We need to finalize the guest list for the charity gala tomorrow. It's going to be a big event. Richard's heart sank. Everything they were discussing would have to pause. Would tomorrow's gala expose their fragile battle for freedom? As his family turned toward the sound, Charlotte caught Richard's eye again, a silent conversation passing between them. They were on the cusp of something bigger, and it would either be a breakthrough or betrayal. Would they have the courage to face what was coming? And would love really be strong enough to withstand it? The night hung thick with anticipation, each tick of the clock reminding Richard and Charlotte of the turning point they found themselves at. Richard's father stared silently, a storm brewing behind his eyes, and Richard's mother clung to her breaths, torn between loyalties and fears. What if I attend the gala with Charlotte? Not as a distraction, but as my choice. Richard finally spoke, his voice steady yet reverberating with the weight of uncertainty. The room, taut with silence, awaited a response, the air thick as fog. Your choice. His father's brow furrowed, skepticism etched into the lines of his face. Richard stood his ground, heart pounding. Yes. I want to show you both that this isn't just a whim, it's my future. It's us. He gestured between himself and Charlotte, their hands clasped tightly as if drawing strength from each other. Richard's mother studied him closely, and the softness in her gaze offered a glimmer of understanding. Honey, this isn't just about who you're with. There are expectations, pressures. She paused, searching for the right words, but if this makes you happy, we can discuss that together. Charlotte's grip on Richard's hand didn't waver. I understand what it means to be caught between choices and obligations, she added softly, looking toward Richard's parents with open vulnerability. But love isn't supposed to suffocate you. It's meant to elevate you. Something shifted in the room. Richard's father glanced at his wife, then back to Richard. Is this what you truly want, son? To risk everything for something uncertain? I'd rather risk it all than live a life dictated by others, Richard said, voice firm and genuine. Being apart from Charlotte, being unhappy is worse than facing the truth. The corners of his father's mouth twitched, caught between annoyance and surprise. Don't think it will be easy, his mother interjected, a hint of warning lacing her tone. This family, it has long-standing expectations and roots that run deep. You may find it hard to navigate those waters. I'm willing to try, Richard said, his breath holding the weight of his resolve. And I need both of you to know I love her. This matters. Charlotte felt a swelling in her chest, pride blooming as she held Richard's gaze. I'm here to help him through this, if you'll let me. We can be strong together, but it starts with acceptance. Richard's father regarded Charlotte longer this time. The familiar lines of tension on his face softened slightly, exposing the complexities of a man who had devoted his life to legacy. Perhaps you're not just a distraction, he admitted begrudgingly. But what do you expect will change? Maybe we can redefine what it is to be a part of this family, Charlotte suggested. Love doesn't come with rules about who fits best into a family structure, right? It should be about support, acceptance, and growth. She did her best to quell the rising anxiety as she made her case. After a moment, Richard's father shifted uncomfortably, cracking his knuckles beneath the surface of the table. If you truly want to contend for your choice, then you'd have to do so in front of our circle tomorrow night. At the gala. Richard's heart raced, an unfamiliar exhilaration coursing through him. Are you saying I can bring Charlotte to the gala? His father nodded slowly, a cautious yet significant concession. If you're determined to show your commitment, then let the world see it. Richard squeezed Charlotte's hand tighter, feeling the heat of hope bubble beneath the surface. This was not just a retreat. It was a leap forward, a chance to embrace the life he wanted. The night wore on, filled with tentative discussions, anticipation, and a new understanding forging its way through a fractured family. It was a beginning, not an end. When the day of the gala dawned, Charlotte stood alongside Richard in the luxurious hall, the air a swirl of elegance and tension. They were greeted with shimmering chandeliers and voices slicing through the crowd, laughter, mingled with whispers of apprehension. As they walked through, Richard felt the weight of eyes on them, judgment firing from the corners of the room. He gripped Charlotte's hand tighter. "No turning back now," he whispered, sending a reassuring smile her way. "Let us show them who we are," she replied with a grin that illuminated their darkened expectations. As they approached his family, Richard took a deep breath, feeling fortified by his earlier resolve. Each step pulled them deeper into uncharted territory, but together they radiated strength. "Everyone, I would like to introduce you to Charlotte," Richard pronounced, his voice steady but tinged with anticipation. Heads turned, and a hush fell over the crowd. "She is someone I care about deeply, and I wanted you all to meet the woman who inspires me to be more than just part of our legacy." Tension danced across the room, anticipation crackling like electricity. Richard's family's faces were frozen, shock mingling with curiosity. Charlotte stood by his side, heart hammering but proud, the world unfolding before them like the petals of a flower. Then he saw a subtle shift in his father's expression. Something resembling acceptance flashed in his eyes. The tension softened like the evening sun fading over the horizon. "We'll take on the challenges together," Richard declared, determination igniting his voice. "And together, redefine what our family can be. Love isn't a distraction, it's a foundation." The gathered crowd now buzzed with instant reactions, a mixture of intrigue and uncertainty. But it didn't matter. Richard had taken the step he feared, alongside the woman who had shown him the light in the darkness. As Charlotte felt the warmth of unity wrap around them, she smiled, knowing that a road lay ahead filled with battles and victories. But they would face them together, hand in hand. Richard turned to her with a grin that whispered of uncharted futures and dreams waiting to take flight. Maybe, just maybe, their love could become the bridge that connects disparate worlds into something beautiful. Their journey had just begun, with hope igniting like stars in the night sky, and together, they were ready to light the way. Now, before you go, make sure you subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories weaving love and hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, every bit counts. Comment below with your feelings about the ending, your insights really matter, and finally, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this beautiful transformation. This is the moment to show your support, so don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans understand how important it is to uplift the channel through these actions.